Well, here to do a quick little video on the WWE over the past week's content from the WWE. Elimination Chamber 2023 came and went, and for me it was certainly the definition of a mixed bag. We had Asuka win the Women's Chamber, which was the right decision in my opinion. I talked about that last week. Austin Theory retained his US title, which on one hand, if it is to get him and Cena at WrestleMania, it does fit the story because of Cena's past doing the US title challenges. But I still think somebody else could have won that match, and you could have had even more of a proper setup for a different match at WrestleMania, because I'm starting to think half of the matches at WrestleMania are kind of going to be thrown together last minute over this next month. That's kind of what it's feeling like, which I'll get to here in a second. I could get into it now, honestly, because Lashley defeated Lesnar by DQ. Some people upset with that, and at the time my initial reaction was to be, this is how they're blowing off the Lesnar-Lashley feud. But I think it fits, because Lesnar is about to lose to Lashley and has to resort to getting himself DQ'd so he doesn't end up losing. And so that makes Lashley look a little stronger coming out of this feud, that he kind of needed to look that way. Lesnar gets to beat everybody up after the match, which still puts Lesnar over strong. I think that Triple H's booking gets a lot of slack for having a lot of DQs and a lot of dusty finishes, as if that's not how pro wrestling has been for 4 decades. It's weird to me how suddenly everybody doesn't like disqualifications. When it's booked right, it's the right way to go. Not every match needs to have a clean finish. In fact, AEW can learn a little something, in my opinion. I'm covering all 1982 on this channel in Territory days, and you could definitely see a lot of DQs, a lot of countouts. It's a proper way to end a match so you can keep both wrestlers looking good. Now, that's, I think, going to set up Lashley and Bray Wyatt for WrestleMania, seems to be the rumor. That's going to be random. I don't know what that's going to accomplish. I kind of felt the same way with the LA Knight and Bray feud, and that ended up working thanks to LA Knight, which, by the way, LA Knight has not been seen a lot since getting that feud over himself. So that's some bad booking from Triple H, dropping the ball with LA Knight over these past few weeks, especially since WrestleMania is going to be in LA. So I would hope something good would be set up for LA Knight. It only makes logical sense. But yeah, the Bray Wyatt Uncle Howdy story, at this point, I have to call it a failure. It's a failure. It's not building towards anything good. It's starting to become more and more out of place because they keep making it happen in the ring, when the Bray Wyatt character and Uncle Howdy would probably work better in more backstage segments or off-site segments. It's not really building up properly, always being in the ring. So it's kind of definitely becoming a story not meshing well with everything else. And putting it in with Lashley is pretty random to me. I don't know what that means for the Hurt Business build. I guess we'll see, but I really hope they get to it, because it's seeming a little thrown together. And WrestleMania is a month away at this point, basically. A little over a month away. Edge and his wife, Beth Phoenix, defeated Rhea Ripley and Finn. That was fine. I don't really have much to say on that. If they're still building Ripley to defeat Charlotte, maybe they can have Beth Phoenix feud with Rhea for that title afterwards. That would make logical sense. Logical storytelling. And then to end the night, we all saw it coming. Let's be real. Sami was never going to win that match. But when he did end up losing, after all of the shenanigans from Jimmy, Jay coming out as well, and Sami ends up spearing Jay accidentally, so we didn't actually see Jay turn on Sami. We were all kind of wrong about that speculation, but it was still the end result we all saw coming. But when Sami lost and that arena got so quiet, I started to realize that the road to WrestleMania just lost some of its momentum. I don't really think the Roman Reigns and Cody story has much momentum. I really don't. No, I don't see the fans turning on Cody yet. It's gonna happen though if things go the way they're looking. If Cody is the one to defeat Roman, is he gonna stay over as this big face? I don't know. His story's over. And then what? It's coming off a little too WWE over the past decade to me. And that's not a good thing. Because over the past decade, WWE's booking, it's weak. And I think this story is missing something. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Sami Zayn build was so strong, and the Sami and Roman story is so strong. And the Cody now feuding with Heyman on Raw all the time. The first night it was fine. They had a good segment. On this week's Raw, that segment fell completely flat. Maybe it was because Heyman was on video and not actually in the arena with Cody. But it didn't work for me. And I don't think that's going to work as a build. I guess it keeps Roman and Cody apart to make them clashing at WrestleMania mean more. But it's falling flat. I just think the Roman and Sami story isn't over. And yeah, sure, it doesn't have to end at WrestleMania. And maybe Roman beats Cody, which I still think is the right call booking-wise. It makes Cody's story mean more when he actually does win the title in the future. But yeah, the silence of that arena at Elimination Chamber once Sami lost and Kevin Owens coming out got a pop, but that was like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. It's just not gonna help that much. They do have a story with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I'm glad they've gone the route where Kevin Owens is not ready to embrace Sami Zayn as a friend again. He said he was done with Sami in November, and he's continuing that. So that continues a story there to the likely build of those two versus the Usos. And there's still plenty of story threads with the Bloodline story, but Cody's now being shoehorned into it. And it fits his own story, but I think they're struggling to fit it into the actual Bloodline story. Because it does feel like a shoehorn that just because it's WrestleMania, we have to detour our Bloodline story for Cody's story. And that can work if it's done right, but at this point, it's missing something. Some might disagree, and I'm not hitting the panic button like a lot of people are doing, that oh my god, Sami should have won at Elimination Chamber. That was the time to do it. That was the moment. I don't necessarily agree with that. But that silence after he lost, and that segment on Raw between Cody and Heyman falling flat, I do think some of the excitement for WrestleMania is starting to fall a little short. The booking isn't there for Cody and Roman yet. It can happen. There's a month away. But you add that to the fact that half of the stories for WrestleMania are going to be thrown together. And the other half probably will have some long-term story, so that's good. But the other half's going to be thrown together over these next few months. I hope they can make me a little more excited for Cody and Roman, because I just feel like I want to see more of the actual Bloodline story, and that story is just Cody's story, and it's missing some layers. It is. Certainly when you compare it to all of the Bloodline stories, the various Bloodline stories that are still going on.